A door to heaven, a mystical throne with an obscure figure on it, 24 other thrones, and a vast sea of water that looked like glass. In this video, we're breaking down one man's visit to heaven, what he saw, what it meant, and why people have been talking about it for 2,000 years. Hi, my name's Corey, and you're watching RedeemerOnline.church, and it's my mission to help you understand and practice the Christian faith, especially if you don't go to a church right now. If that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button. If you love what we do, we'd really appreciate your financial support, so hit that donate link in the description below. We're going through the book of Revelation right now, trying to understand what the book actually meant to its original audience, so that we can better understand what it might mean for you and me now. At the beginning of Revelation chapter 4, the author John has just finished writing down Jesus' messages to 7 churches. And you can find those explanations that we did on those in the description. But then there's this abrupt transition. After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." Now, when you think door into heaven, you might think a door floating way up in the sky with no possible way for John to walk through it. But that's not likely. In John's mind, heaven, or the realm of God, isn't up there somewhere. It's here. It's intermingling with our reality. If you've ever seen the show Stranger Things, set in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana, you know the concept of the upside down, right? Where things are dark and dangerous and filled with despair, but somehow still intertwined with the real light Hawkins. The entire concept of the show is that a portal has been opened up between light Hawkins and the upside down. And that's more like what's going on here for John, only he and his readers are the ones living in the upside down, and he's about to walk through the portal into the light, the real heaven. At once I was in the Spirit. Now, when he says in the Spirit, he's using a common writing technique used by other apocalyptic writers. Remember, apocalypse isn't about the end of the world per se, but it's about revealing, it's about pulling back the divine curtain. He's trying to signal to the reader that what he's about to share was a profoundly spiritual experience for him, that he got to peek behind the curtain and see on a different plane. And there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby, a rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. John steps into the throne room and catches a glimpse of God. But this isn't the first time that somebody's had this kind of experience. Hundreds of years before John, an Israelite prophet named Ezekiel described a very similar vision of God. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, full of fire, and that from there down, he looked like fire and brilliant light surrounded him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. Ezekiel describes the figure as glowing metal or fire. John describes his figure as having the appearance of these gemstones that are typically red, orange, and yellow in color. Jasper and ruby. Both also describe the figure on the throne as being surrounded by or emanating some brilliant light, shining like, specifically, a rainbow. The next thing that John describes, he's also not the first to see. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. Now, John's not the first to ever have this kind of experience of being ushered into the throne room of God and then reporting back what he saw and heard. Another Israelite prophet, Micaiah, also living hundreds of years before John, described a similar scene. The throne room of God surrounded by many, some who would be offering their input to God, appearing to make decisions along with God. Now, there's plenty of debate over what exactly the 24 thrones and 24 elders dressed in white wearing crowns represents. Is it the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles reflecting the full community of believers? Is it heavenly beings like the angels or divine council members that Micaiah saw? Is it representatives of humanity who remained faithful to Jesus? I mean, in his 7 letters to the churches that we covered in previous videos, Jesus promised co-ruling positions and white clothes to people who persevered. Do they simply represent the priestly and kingly roles of God's church? I mean, there were 24 priestly divisions described in the Old Testament, and in the New Testament, Peter said that the church would be a royal priesthood. Look, it's not entirely clear, but it seems that within the divine throne room, there are a lot of participants in whatever's going on. What is going on, by the way? That's a really great question, and we're going to get to it next time. But I just want to point out a couple more things that John sees so that we can talk about why they matter. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. That's consistent with how Moses and the Israelites experienced God. In front of the throne, 7 lamps were blazing, and these are the 7 spirits of God. What? A representation of the Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit of God, the 7-fold Spirit of God, the angels to the churches, like we read about in the first couple chapters? It's not clear. Also in front of the throne, there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. This one's fascinating and where I want to pause. There are different interpretations of what the sea might represent here, but one stands out for me in particular, especially when it comes to why people would be reading this and finding it so compelling. Remember, this document, Revelation, was in existence and circulation amongst these small house churches in Turkey for nearly 300 years before it was ever included in the Bible. So why did people find this so compelling, especially while they were suffering so much? In the ancient world, the sea was a symbol for chaos and destruction. And in a little bit, we're going to read about the personification of evil and chaos, the dragon, calling forth a beast to wage war with from the sea. And later on in Revelation, we're going to hear about victorious people walking across the sea into which the defeated beasts were thrown. The sea is chaos, and the people reading this were very familiar with chaos. Maybe you are too. So why does it matter that the sea was inside the throne room? Because it means it's within God's domain. It's under his rule. Even the chaos will eventually submit to him. For people who were suffering all kinds of trials and tribulations, it was comforting to know that all of their chaos was still part of it. It's still within God's control. It's still part of the story, part of the plan in his domain. And that gave them hope. Maybe it can give you hope too. To know that all of the chaos that you experience might be part of something greater. And even though it's awful and terrible, and it is, it won't all be for nothing. Now, what else is going on in that throne room? I mean, what are those elders up to? And are there any other creatures in there? Great question. We're going to get to that next time, because it's wild. Thanks for watching. Again, click subscribe if you like this video. Hit the donate button if you want to support this ministry, if you really liked it, and we'll see you next time.